as anidasanam. Vijnanam as anidasanam. And apparently it comes up in Majjhima Nikaya 49, that word, Vijnanam adidasanam. Something to do with unmanifested consciousness or unfabricated reality, or I don't know, something like that. Consciousness without surface. That's what it says. Consciousness without any surface.
All right. Well, first off, let's go do the introductions. This is the Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon group for UK, but it looks like that a lot of us are here in Thailand. I think Kat's here in Thailand, and Misha and Daniel and David are all here in Thailand. And it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But this is also for people who are in the UK and Europe for mid-morning and time. So we've got a topic today, and what Kat had to say, we'll fold that in.
Yeah.
So, Amrit, can you ask your question again? Amrit.
Yes, right. So my question is about the word vipassana, which is kind of translated as clear seeing. And my understanding is so Buddha was big in clear seeing. Clearly seeing what's happening in the mind. And a lot of practice is about training the mind to see clearly what it is doing.
Okay.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
All right. So let's start talking about this in the sense of right investigation. That in the Eightfold Noble Path, in Sutta number 117 in the Majjhima Nikaya, called the Great 40, the Buddha actually discusses the Noble Eightfold Path, and the Noble Eightfold Path is different from the mundane, ordinary path in the sense of that it starts with wisdom. It starts with panya, as opposed to the ordinary Eightfold Path that starts with sila. The phrase sila, samadhi, panya is used, but once someone reaches panya, then we do the path over again anew. Bhikkhu Buddhadasa also refers with that with anapanasati, is by going through it and then going through it again after you completely understand what to do. So, I would say that offhand, the word vipassana can be used in conjunction with panya, or wisdom, and also right noble view, which is sama arya ditti. And there's also a sutta number 9 in the Majjhima Nikaya called right view. And in there, the Paticca Samuppada is discussed in detail. So, basically, when we're practicing the Eightfold Noble Path, let us say at least in the beginning, we're getting the mind ready to start practicing it in a noble way. And the noble path is kind of different than the way that we normally see it. That in fact, the word vipassana seems to have a whole lot of value in certain circles in the sense of clear seeing. And we can say that there's 2 ways of seeing clearly. One is to see dukkha, and then the other is to see how to make it dukkha nirodha, how to finish it, how to get out of it. And that vipassana doesn't really have that quality to it, that it only has the quality of seeing.
Oh,
All right, Daniel, glad to see you back.
Welcome, Misha.
Hello.
Did you join? Great.
Mm.
So, good. Welcome, Daniel. Now,
Thank you.
we're actually going to start talking about the Eightfold and Noble Path as it actually is presented by the Buddha, as opposed to Vipassana, which is only 2 steps. The first step of Vipassana is to remember, and the second part of it is to look. And this is about as far as Vipassana and the Mahasi method that's taught in the West goes. But there is more to the path than merely seeing, hopefully clear seeing. That in fact you could say that one can only see clearly when we see both sides. And what I mean by both sides, both the wholesome and the unwholesome, or both the dukkha and the dukkha nirodha. This is what clear seeing is really about, is that you see all the way through it, or you see it from both angles. And yet most of the practices is to see it only one way. So the entire teaching of the Buddha is actually dukkha nirodha. To see the dukkha and then come out of it and see that you're out of it. Right? But the Mahasi method is seeing the dukkha, seeing more dukkha, recognizing dukkha, getting a great big hole in the dukkha, seeing that this dukkha is like that dukkha, and then we go down the dukkha rabbit hole into what some people refer to as a dark night of the soul, where you get disgusted, you get resentful, you become fearful, followed by desperation, then followed by a strong desire to get out of it. And that's followed then by the next step, which actually is useful, and that is right to noble effort, the third one on the list. So the first one is to wake up and take a look. That's the first 2. To wake up and come to the present moment so that you can do the investigation. But that's only half the practice. The second part of the practice has to do with making a change to see that it's dukkha and then make a change to it. All right, go ahead, Amit. You got your hand there.
Yeah, one question. I think I was reading a book by I think Goldstein or somebody, some very old follower of Mahasi, and he wrote about the Vipassana jhanas. And
He's talking about what?
I think those are maybe not.
Did you say the word Vipassana jhanas?
Yes, I think they call it Vipassana
All right.
jhanas or Jnana jhana.
Pardon?
Yeah, I think something like that. Maybe it's a Jnana jhana or Vipassana jhana. Maybe
Okay.
those are maybe not in the suttas. I'm not sure about it.
Right. In fact, that stuff is coming out of the Visuddhimagga, which is where the basis of the Vipassana meditation comes from. Let's not get too deep into the Visuddhimagga right now, but rather let's stay back with the actual practice that the Buddha recommends that doesn't have all of this stuff with it. And that let's continue to talk about right noble effort, because one's right noble effort is to make a change, to change it from dukkha to dukkha nirodha. Now, we could say then that there is 3 ways to do it, and I've got 2 different analogies. One analogy is, imagine that you're on a road and that you see a big lorry or bus or something coming down that road, bearing down on you, maybe even blowing its horn to let you know it's there. And the Vipassana method is to stand there and take it. Hello, Rick.
Hey, Dhammarato.
Right. I would even go so far as to talk about it in the sense of Popeye. That when Popeye the Sailor Man has something, he gets his great big muscle and he stands there and he's going to stop that bus, right? And then there's another method that is called choiceless awareness, which is going to just let the bus run right over us. But the Buddhist method would be to make a change. Don't stand in the road, get out of its way. All right? So that's the first analogy, and we'll talk about it a little bit later when we get to the second analogy, which would be, imagine that you're walking down a path or down a sidewalk, and you see a great big dog pile about 3 or 4 steps in front of you. One of the methods is to see it and go ahead and step in it. That would be the Vajrayana, or the choiceless awareness. Yeah, I'm choicelessly aware of that dog pile, and I'm just going to keep right on going and just let it get all over my feet. All right, there's another method, which is the Vipassana method of, oh, let's go take that dog turd into the kitchen and dissect it and see what it's all. Hello, Marcus. Good to see you.
Hello.
So let's take that dog turd into the kitchen and take it apart, put it under the microscope, maybe fry it, maybe do something else with it. But we've got a dog pile. Let's investigate it. Okay. And the third method of that then would be to see the dog pile in the street in front of you, or on the path in front of you, or on the sidewalk in front of you, and step around it. This is basically the same as getting out of its way. This is the right noble effort. This is the third item on the Eightfold Noble Path that is often missing in Western style Buddhism. All right. So the Vipassana method is taking the dog pile into the kitchen and investigating it. The choiceless awareness is go ahead and step in it, or go ahead and let the bus hit you. You don't care. Choicelessly aware. And the Buddha's method is to take the right noble effort to come out of the unwholesome mind state, to come out of the dukkha and come into a wholesome state. Now, in the Anapanasati Sutta, this is referred to as gladdening the mind, making the mind more wholesome, changing immediately what we see. Instead of dwelling in our dukkha until it gets really big, we become excellent at seeing what it is. Hello, Anna. Glad to see you again. So, in this regard, the Eightfold Noble Path has specific steps to it. And this Eightfold Noble Path that the Buddha laid out, he also mentioned that Anapanasati is the best way of practicing it. So, as we are practicing, what we're actually practicing is gaining several skills. One of the skills is to wake up and remember to wake up. To don't just let things go along, but actually start paying attention. This is the point, Kat, that you had mentioned, is that we have to keep waking up and looking, to keep waking up and looking over and over and over again. But let's also add that third part, and that is to wake up, take a look, and make a change, and then check out the change. Remember to look at the changes that you made, and remember to do this again and again and again. So we're going to actually change the way that we're thinking, because we're going to investigate the way that we're thinking and then change it, modify it, and do it again. This is basically an example of that would be writing code. That, yeah, we can sit down and write code, but then we got to check it out. We got to make sure that it's right. And then we make some changes to it, and then run it again. And then check it out. And then run it again until we come to a state of satisfaction with it. So this is the method that the Buddha taught, which is actually to remember, sati. This is the word sati. I know that it's translated into English as the word mindfulness, but it really has the quality of waking up into this present moment. In other words, instead of just rolling along thinking thoughts, we're actually now going to wake up to inspect the thoughts that we have. And then, once we inspect those thoughts, we're going to make an improvement to them. We're going to keep changing the thoughts that we have to make them better and better. Now, one of the basic qualities that humans have is that, in fact, this is instinctual. It's part of our DNA, and it's called the self-preservation instinct. And the baseline of the self-preservation instinct, or its, let us say, its method of communication, is fear. That when we are in danger of losing the self as is being preserved, fear will come up. So if we can find the fear that's in the mind or in the heart or in the feelings, we can actually start turning ourselves out of that fear by recognizing the reality is, looking around us, there's nothing to fear right now. Let me ask you this. We've got quite a few people on the group today. Somebody speak up if they can say that they're afraid right now.
Sorry,
Anybody afraid right now?
I gotta go, but thank you so much. Sorry, I have some
Oh, we'll stay around.
Thank you.
I
No,
mean,
I gotta. I'll come next week. It's really, but there's some
Thanks for joining.
miscommunication that I have to. Yeah, thank you, Daniel. All right, see you guys. Enjoy. Bye.
So nobody's willing to say that they're afraid right now, but one guy is leaving. He's afraid he was going to miss something. So he actually misunderstood the question. Is anybody else got any fear right now? It's just clearly obvious that the guy had some fear. That's why he left. He either left to go or he left to get away from.
I'm a bit afraid because I found out that I lost my wallet. I don't know where he is, but I'm doing mindfulness so that I don't become too much worried and act wisely instead of going around and around in fear, trying to find the wallet. I'm trying a mindful approach.
All right. Well, here's the answer to that. Don't be afraid that you've lost your wallet. Go look for it. Go looking for it. That's the whole point of Anapanasati is to go make an investigation. Where have you been? Go back there and look. That in fact, this is an idea that you can have as an aspect of Anapanasati is to recognize that you're afraid, that you have fear. So, if you've broken something, if you've lost something, if you don't know where something is, if you've got an animal that you're caring for that's not behaving the way that you want to, almost invariably, some sort of fear will come up, but we're not aware of it. We don't know that it's there. So the part of the Anapanasati is to start looking at these little fears that we have, because we go around living in a state of fear without even knowing it. And fear is the primary feeling. And it is a marvelous feeling to be free from fear. So let me ask you this now in the opposite direction. Who here, answer up, is absolutely free from fear? Have no fear at all? Well, nobody's answering yes to that one either. And yes, it's a yes or no question. Are you in fear or are you not? And no one's willing to admit that they're afraid other than Pedro and Misha.
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're in it and sometimes you're not. The question is that when fear arises, do you know it? Are you well skilled and well practiced to know when fear comes up? Because then you can do something about it. To where in Vipassana, they would teach you, know the fear, see the fear, and eventually the fear will go away. But in fact, that's not the case. You know the fear, you feel the fear, and then you feel it some more, and then you find something else to be afraid of, and now you're going down the rabbit hole of fear. As opposed to seeing the little bit of fear, and then testing out reality. The fact is that there really is nothing to be afraid of right now. Pedro, right now, you don't need that wallet. So right now, why would you feel fear about the wallet? You can just happily go looking for it. Or, in Kat's case, losing his email, he'll get eventually used to and not have to worry about that all that data and all that information is lost. That things happen. Loved ones die. Pets die. Laptops die. Cell phones break. Wallets fall out of the pocket. All kinds of stuff happens. How are you going to handle that? Well, the ordinary way of handling that stuff is to be afraid, get uptight, start to worry. And the question is, can you see that stuff when it's happening and make a change to it, to come out of it, immediately to come out of it and say, oh, I don't need that wallet right now. I'll go looking for it later. We'll figure it out. We'll get there. There's no problem. There's no worries. I'm okay right now. Yeah, Dan, go ahead.
I can come out of the thought immediately, but not the feeling. The feeling can take a while.
All right. How long is that while?
Sometimes it can be really short. For example, today and yesterday, I noticed that I'm starting to get a lot cooler and I can get out of it like really quickly. But some days, yeah, I can see the fear, I can get out of the thoughts, but there's like this underlying feeling, like this, they call it like generalized or fleeting anxiety, I guess. It's just like a really, really subtle, like it doesn't feel intense, but it's like some underlying tendency that something's wrong. Just like the self-preservation instinct, I guess.
All right. Would you actually accept the point that the sooner you see the fear come up, the easier it is to deal with? And if it comes up and then you have some thoughts about it, oh, where's my wallet? Or we've broken the website. It's gone. How can I fix it? You know, all of that kind of feeling then will build up, and that's what makes it hard. And so the real skill then is to catch it quickly, to get it soon. This is why we want to develop Anapanasati, actually develop that sati, so that we could catch stuff quickly, so it's really easy to deal with. Anna, you have your hand up.
Yes, if I may intervene in what you are saying. So I'm becoming quite skilled in dealing with my fear and anxiety, because as you know, I had a big episode of panic in one of my 10-day meditation. Actually, one of my last sitting, I had a fear coming up and I saw it and I dealt with it by feeling it like totally, completely. And at some point it has disappeared.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's the ordinary Vipassana, is to look at it, get it really intense, and then sometime it'll go away. Well, guess what? That kind of situation is going to come back. It's going to get really intense again, and then it's going to go away. And we haven't really practiced anything very well, not to build the skill. So, in fact, what we need to do is to follow the teaching of the Buddha, is to see that fear come up as soon as it can, as soon as we have sati, to see it for what it is quickly, and then talk ourselves out of it with reality. To recognize it right now, I don't need it. Okay?
Yeah,
and
actually,
then,
I did both.
All right.
I did both. So first I talked to me about it and come to reality. Okay, there's nothing to fear and blah blah blah. But there was a physical stuff happening in my ear that I couldn't control. And even if I was talking to me about it, it was still there, which was a tinnitus. Okay, so it made me panic. And so the only way I could deal with it is that, okay, it's just a tinnitus, no problem. It's just a tinnitus, okay, no problem. But at the same time, I had this sensation of fear in my body. And by observing those sensations and letting them come, they disappeared.
Right. Well, guess what? Anicca Vata Sankara is going to disappear anyway.
Yes, exactly.
It's going to, and the reason that it does is because the mind is wandering around. It wanders into the danger. It stays there for a while. It gets really intense, and then the mind will wander away again. For instance, Pedro losing his wallet, but he's not going to be thinking about that wallet every second. If he does, he's going to drive himself nuts over it. He'll have a whole lot more trouble by worrying about the wallet rather than actually losing it. Yeah, in fact, he'll be okay without losing it, or with losing it. He'll find it eventually or replace all the stuff in it. But the point is that we don't have to deal with all this fear. That we can do that, replacing the wallet happily. We can take care of it easily. And the way that we do that is by recognizing that we're having unwholesome thoughts about, oh no, I've lost my wallet. Oh no, that's terrible. Or, oh no, I'm in the meditation room and I'm in panic. People have these panic attacks and they don't know where they come from. And generally, the panic attack is triggered by some unwholesome thought. And then they'll have those unwholesome thoughts again and again and remain in that state of panic far longer. But if we can say, I see that panic button, I see what caused that panic, let me unwire that button right now, or let me, in fact, take my hand off of that button and put that metaphorical hand of the mind onto something else. Like, I don't have anything to panic about. There's no problem. There's no worry.
I agree, but when your body is already reacting because you are in panic, okay, and then the body reacts like you have a very weird sensation in your stomach and in your chest and stuff like that, like it means that the sensation have already begun, and even at that point you can stop.
Yes, okay. Well, here's something.
And for example, when you die, I mean, when we will die, maybe we will be in panic, you know, and maybe our body will react, you know, but even at that point we can stop it, right?
Actually, it's even worse than that. People go into panic just by thinking about dying. Rather than having thoughts about death and saying, hot dog, I'm going to be really happy someday. I'm going to be so dead that I don't have any worries anymore. But nobody thinks about it like that.
Yeah.
Generally, that's a noble way of looking at it, but the ordinary way of looking at it is, look how much I have lost if I die. And so we have, and that's built into the DNA in the sense of that fear of death. So we all have these fears. The question is can we do something right now to come out of that panic, to come out of that fear right now?
Yes, I mean, I totally agree. I agree. I mean, if we can stop it before, it's better, of course. But if you are already in the process and your body is already reacting, like that's also there is also a way to come out of it.
Yes, there certainly is. And in fact, if you actually practiced what Goenka teaches in the sense of the body scanning, that would help. That in fact, I talk about him in his scanning as step 3 because step 4 is what we're doing, step 3, 4, investigating the body so that we can relax the body. And that relax the body means to come out of that panic, come out of that tension, to come out of that anxiety. And so here's the way to do it. We can use the breath. And the way that we would use the breath is that we would say, okay, as I breathe in and as I breathe out, let me see if I can locate that panic. Normally it's in the center of the chest. Sometimes it's lower in the belly. Sometimes it's higher up. Generally, when it's higher up is because we're ticked off about it. We don't like what's going on and we have some anger. So anger is more in the throat and the neck area. And anxiety is kind of in the chest. And either real panic or the feeling of grief and real loss is lower down into the gut. So now that we know that, let's go find out where the tension is in the body. If it's in the center of the chest, then let's breathe into that. Let's actually breathe in and breathe out with the investigation of, is this in fact changing? Can I move that anxiety around? Can I make it grow big when I take an in-breath and grow small when I take an out-breath? And by looking at it this way, only a few breaths are necessary, and it generally changes. Only a few breaths are necessary. I'd say, within a minute, we can clear out that anxiety by investigating it in the body. Because, in fact, while we're investigating in the body, we're not having the thoughts that trigger it. So losing the wallet is going to trigger that anxiety. And the thoughts of losing the wallet, in fact, every time we think about losing the wallet or every time we think about the whole website is broken, we get into that fear, and then we can see, oh, I see where that fear is. I can experience it in my body. Let me take a deep breath. Let me play with that anxiety. And by taking the deep breath, physiological things are happening. One of the things that's happening is that we're getting more oxygen in the blood. That when we're in a panic, we normally go into a freeze state. That this is actually going back to many, many thousands of years ago, when the right thing to do when a human saw a predator was freeze in the hope that the predator don't see you. That's especially good for big ones like rhinoceroses. If you can see a rhinoceros before he sees you, freeze. But now we can say in modern times the same thing is true about a cop. If you can see the cop before he sees you, you have a chance of changing your behavior. But normally what happens is that people will freeze and then do something stupid. So the thing to do when we've recognized that pain or at that anxiety or that fear or whatever is in the body is to start investigating it, look at it, take a deep breath. The other quality of that, getting the body oxygenated, is also that fear is a chemical reaction, and it normally has the chemical of adrenaline and cortisol associated with it. And adrenaline will actually break down very easily, and if we're taking deep breaths, it will break into small amino acids that can actually come out with the lungs, and so we can literally breathe out our fear. We can throw it out of the body. We can put the blood back in a good state. And this is a really good reason to practice Anapanasati in that way, of taking deep breaths, investigating the body in that state with the intention of relaxing it. This, by the way, is step 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Anapanasati, the body. This is how we deal with it. And Goenka, even though he's doing all of this scanning, he never gives the students the point that the reason that we're doing this body scanning is not, in fact, to concentrate the mind. The real reason for doing this breathing and investigating of the body is to relax the body, to let the body be relaxed and free from that tension and worry. Okay, so now Daniel's got his hand up, and Amit, I think, did too. So go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, so I had a similar problem in the sense that I did not have a panic attack, but sometimes I get a thought or a topic in my head that's really sticky, and that even the deep breathing, like the general Anapanasati, doesn't seem to help. But when I do the short breathing for like 4 or 5 minutes, it's really like I get like a factory reset button, in my mind. If I do that, it's so easy afterwards to change. It's like no matter how bad my mind gets, how polluted, just 4 or 5 minutes of short breathing, and I'm completely like out
I
of
hear
it.
you saying 4 or 5, not 45. Is that right?
Yeah, 4 or 5. That's
4 or
right.
5.
45 is a long time.
Yes. All right. So maybe not even 4 or 5 minutes, just maybe 15 or 20 seconds. Now, Daniel's making an important point, and that is that when we're intentionally breathing long, there is a whole lot of time within a breath for the mind to wander away. And if we can, and that's the better way to practice, unless the mind is intentionally wandering away and coming back into that fear, and the fear won't go away because of the long breathing, then change it to the short. Why? Because if you're breathing short, you have to pay attention to the breath very often, very quickly. Mindfully breathing in short, and then mindfully breathing out short, and mindfully breathing in short, and mindfully breathing out short. And you keep doing that, thinking about the breath. It actually chases that stuff away in the mind, but it also helps to eliminate all of that chemical stuff, the adrenaline and whatnot in the body fairly quickly. And so just to give you a demonstration of the short breath, it would be almost like when you're out of breath, when you're running or going up a hill and you get winded, then we breathe deep, but short. Now, when we're doing that, naturally, because we've been running up a hill or taking exercise or whatever, people don't like the short breath. We really don't like it. And so we actually have to put that extra mental step in it to keep that breath going for 4 or 5 minutes, as you say. 4 or 5 minutes, that's a long time. But if you can do it for 1 minute or 2 minutes, then that should be sufficient to drive away the anxiety for sure. That in fact, you could get a bit lightheaded, where you feel expansive. So this would be the way to do it, is to use the body and the breathing to actually chase away the fear and the anxiety. And then we can come back down to a gentle, long breath and relax the body. That's in fact the investigation of the body to find these tensions, and doing the long breath, those are what bring on the relaxation. But the short breath generally will bring on tiredness instead, which is something associated with relaxing, but it would be better to relax without being tired. And so I wouldn't recommend it for 4 or 5 minutes, but a couple of minutes will certainly chase away that anxiety. So somebody else had a question. Was it you, Emmett?
Yes, I have one point. When Anna was saying that when she was feeling the fear and she tried to feel it completely in the body, like in the Goenka method or Mahasi method, I think that also has something positive about it, because when you're feeling the fear completely, then you are not lost in thought, right? And usually the thought is what is feeding the fear. So maybe it's not as good as trying to change it by using the controlling the breath, but I think it still is positive than to be relative to like completely lost in thought, which are producing the fear in the first place. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree with that. That in fact, while you were talking, it reminded me to make the point that neither the Vipassana method of the Mahasi style of Western Buddhism, nor the Goenka method talk about the breath in this way. That in fact, they're more than likely going to say, oh, we'll just breathe naturally, which means breathing absent-mindedly. Now, here's the point about that. That if you're actually holding something, let us say that you've got an animal that you're holding. It may be an owl or a squirrel or maybe a snake, as opposed to holding keys. That people hold their keys when they're getting out of the car, and they'll go in the house and they'll set those keys down absent-mindedly, and then they don't remember where they put them. But if you've got a snake in your hand and it's wiggling around, you're going to make sure that you're holding it, right? So this is actually the practice of, let's make sure that we're breathing. If we're breathing lightly, or let us say unmindfully, not controlling the breath, then the mind will wander away from the breath really quickly. And guess what? Right back into, where's my wallet? Right back into my panic attack. Right back into whatever dukkha that we were in. But if you can control your breathing by thinking about the breathing to control it, you don't have the mind wandering around so much. And so this is why we want to actually incorporate the breathing. If you'll read the Anapanasati Sutta, it's worded in such a way that all of the various things, all the various, let us call them objects that we're going to be looking at, we do that while we're mindfully thinking about it and controlling our breath. Think about that, all right? What I mean by that is we're gladdening the mind. Let's gladden the mind while we're breathing in long, and then mindfully gladden the mind when we're breathing out long. When you're breathing in short and breathing out short, there's not much time to think about gladdening the mind. You're too busy thinking about breathing. But with the long breath, we can think about gladdening the mind. And what do we mean by that? Gladdening is to recognize that right now everything is okay. There's no worries, there's no problems. There is, in fact, nothing to fear. So if we can find ways of saying to ourselves, nothing to fear, and we come out of our state of fear, then we can become more relaxed, more comfortable. And when we can get ourselves into that state, then the next little thing to do is to get into a state of, this is good enough, I'm satisfied. Well, guess what? That state of satisfaction is exactly opposite of dukkha, which is being dissatisfied. For example, that when we're in a state of anxiety, when we're in a state of fear, that's not a satisfactory state. No one is satisfied with being terrified. We don't like it. Now, to make a point about that is that people will go, especially kids, they like to go to horror movies so that they can get terrified, but they want immediate relief. They do not want for that woman to, let us say, the heroine of the show, with that dark music playing, she's walking down the hall, and everybody in the movie house is thinking, oh no, is something terrible behind that door at the end of the hall. We don't want that door to last more than 4 or 5 seconds until she gets there to find out that there was no danger at all, right? We want that fear to be quick. We want it to be over with. And not only that, but going to a movie to get that excitement actually takes us away from our real fears, because we know intellectually that going to a movie, the things that are dangerous and fearful in a movie are not real. And so we enjoy doing it that way. But when we're out in reality, for instance, that wallet, just because you are terrified that the wallet is missing, the wallet's not going to magically show up again so that you can be relieved of that fear. No, the fear is going to continue. So if it takes you 24 hours or a day or so to find that wallet, that means that that fear is going to keep coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back over and over and over again. And the right way to see it is to not let it build up, but to actually see it and make a change, to come out of that state. So going back to Amit's question about what is Vipassana, really all we need to say is that the Vipassana is to see the dukkha as dukkha, so that we can do something about it immediately. Panic attack, that's dukkha. Fear, that's dukkha. Let's deal with it as soon as we find it. Having a thought, oh, I've lost my wallet, and now I feel fearful. Well, let's get out of that fear, because the fear that we have of, for instance, losing the wallet is not going to bring that wallet back. Being afraid of the loss of the wallet and all the problems that will occur because the wallet is gone does not bring the wallet back. That's magical thinking. Has anybody ever had that before? If you become terrified that you've lost something, does your terrified state bring it back again? Generally, what happens is we'll get into a panic attack, and on the contrary is right. In fact, that while we go looking, we're half in a panic, and so we don't look very well. The right thing to do is to calm down, be correct, and be satisfied, and say, I'm okay. Now, with that state of relaxation in the body, relaxation in the mind, we can go look for the wallet. We'll probably more likely find it. We'll remember, aha, now I remember where it is. But if all of our thoughts are about, I've lost it, and oh, poor me, and I need to get that credit card, and I need that bank account, and I need this, whatnot, and need the driver's license, whatever we can think of, we're in a panic attack. While we're in that panic attack, we're not looking. And when we are looking, if we're still in the panic attack, we're not likely to find it. We have to actually settle down, slow down, so that we can investigate more clearly. So this is what Vipassana is actually, if it's correct Vipassana, is to be able to see that dukkha so that we could get out of it. And yet the word Vipassana is used differently in the context of Western style meditation. In the Western style meditation, the word Vipassana has to do with looking deep, looking closely, that if you find that dog turd right in front of you, don't step on it, just avoid it, would be right Vipassana. The wrong Vipassana would be grab that turd, take it into the kitchen, dissect it, look at it, smell it, maybe fry it, put it in the refrigerator for later. I'm glad that somebody's seeing the funny part about that, because that's what we do. It's funny the way that we deal with our dangers and our problems and whatnot. Is that we want to really investigate it. We want to find out what it's all about. And there's no reason to do that. All we need to do is just see it as dukkha and get out of there. Get out of that state. Start gladdening the mind. Aha, I don't have to deal with that dog turd. I can walk right past it. Leave it alone. This is what the Buddha means and teaches by the teaching of getting over it, or dukkha nirodha. So that's the real Vipassana, is the Vipassana, the insight to come out of it, to make a change, not to see it and investigate it and stay in it, but to be able to change it, to come away from it. That's the insight, is right effort.
Okay, but if I may share something, like when I read the fourth tetrad of Anapanasati, I feel like when I'm doing the breath as you describe and the body scan at the same time, I feel that I'm practicing the fourth tetrad.
You're practicing the four what?
The fourth tetrad of Anapanasati, the one where it talks about contemplating impermanence, you know?
Yes, right. Or maybe contemplation is not the word, but rather the word would be to recognize everything is changing. For instance, when we have that panic attack, we kind of think that panic attack is permanent. Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah.
When we lose our wallet, we say, oh, no, in the sense of it's really permanent, I'll never get over it. That cat, in fact, has had that issue with losing his email, and he can't get into his Microsoft or Outlook account. And you think that that's going to be that way forever. I'm always going to feel bad. Every time that I think about losing that email, I'm going to have a panic attack. But in fact, over time now, it's been weeks since he's lost that account, and he hardly thinks about it anymore. But we have this idea of permanence. Once something gets screwed up, it's going to stay screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
Once the banner is missing off the web page, it's going to stay missing. We'll never see it again. All right? And the answer to that is everything keeps changing. So let's start watching those changes. And in fact, the in-breath is not the same as an out-breath.
Yeah.
That thinking about panic attack and coming out of the panic attack is not the same. That in fact, this is where we can come into the fourth item on the Eightfold Noble Path, and that is by recognizing that we have changed, that we can change, that we can take right effort to make a change, and then we can see that things have changed. For instance, I start with a panic attack and I recognize it, and I take a few deep breaths and I investigate where that anxiety is, and I breathe in long and breathe out long with it. I look at it to see, is it coming? Is it going? Can I see, in fact, the anicca in that anxiety? And while we're doing that, guess what? It goes away. We can actually see that anxiety will go away. And then what is replaced by that is a sense of relief. Wow. I was able to breathe out that anxiety. And right now, I don't feel that anxiety anymore. So that's the point that we can actually not just contemplate anicca, but actually see it in progress. Watch things happen. Watch things change. Watch things rot away, like the feeling of the anxiety. Watch it go. And then we can throw it out. We can relinquish it. It's gone. And we can now come to that point of the Sammasankappa, which is part of the Eightfold Path, is to celebrate, to congratulate ourselves. Wow, I could come out of my anxiety. I did it right then. I could do it again. I did it right then. I can do it again. Pardon? Sammasankappa. Right. You can say that it actually is better translated as, it's translated wrongly as thought, right thought. But another way to translate it would be right intention. But a better translation would be right attitude. We can change our attitude from being a loser. The loser's attitude is, oh no, I'm in a panic attack. And the winner's attitude is, hot dog, I can come out of that panic attack. That's a big change in, actually it's a change in perception. We perceive things differently. From, oh no, I've lost my wallet, isn't that terrible? Into the perception of, I'll get along without it. I don't need it. And I'll probably be able to find it. And then I'll be really glad when I find it. So this is the Sammasankappa. It has a quality of confidence. The word in Pali is the word sada or shraddha in the Sanskrit. And that sada is often translated into English as faith. This is not faith. This is based upon evidence of the investigation. I was in a panic attack, and now I'm not. Yeehaw! I'm not in a panic attack right now anymore. I was able to breathe my way out of it. So Amit, go ahead. You've got your hand up.
Yeah, I have sometimes I have a different problem. Sometimes my problem is I'm kind of feeling normal, but then I have a fantastic thoughts, something like I'm doing some fantastic stuff and maybe impressing my friends. And then I try to stop myself doing it because even though I'm feeling good when I'm having those thoughts, but and when I stop doing it, then I feel a little bit kind of a pressure in my head. So did you understand my kind of problem?
You're saying you have tension in the head after what happens?
So usually I have the fantastic, like kind of a fantasy thought, like I'm doing some heroic thingy in my imaginations.
Okay.
So like a fantasy,
All
and then I
right.
feel very good about it because I'm having these fantasy thoughts, little bit like a daydreaming, and then I recognize I am kind of thinking I'm daydreaming instead of paying attention to my breath or to my body. And when I stop myself doing it, then I feel kind of a tension in my head.
Okay. Is that tension in the head would be kind of a dissatisfaction?
Yes.
That
So
in
part
fact
of
you
me
could.
wants to go to the fantasy again.
Right. Okay. Well, guess what? We like our fantasies. We like to make stuff up. We do
Yeah.
that from childhood. Remember when you were 3 years old, when you were thinking about all kinds of possibilities? The little girl thinks about she's the mother of this doll. The little boys think about being the driver of this Tonka toy. And we go zoom, zoom, zoom as if we think it's real. And then we look at it and recognize that that's just a dream. It's not real. Well, wait a minute. I was having a lot of fun with my dream, and now I recognize it's a dream. I don't like that at all. Well, if we can congratulate ourselves from coming out of the dream instead of not liking it, so we can congratulate ourselves. I was dreaming. I was having fun dreaming. But now I'm not dreaming anymore. Poor me. All right, that's the time again for Vipassana, or that's the time again to investigate. Look, I was dreaming and I liked it, and then I found out that it was a dream, and now I don't like it. Can you actually see that unwholesomeness that comes in of, oh, it wasn't real? And the right way to say it would be, aha, I can see that I was dreaming and I'm better off in reality. Wow, I'm really glad that I caught that dream, that I caught that daydream, that I talked that make believe, that I talked that dream. But now I can come back to reality happily. And so then there's not going to be so much tension and anxiety over the loss of our very, very favorite stuff that we make up, our dreamy state, our delusions, our magical thinking, that in fact the child is delving into magical thinking when he thinks that his toys are real, when he thinks that the bear, his teddy bear, actually believes what he says. We think that the teddy bear actually thinks back and talks back to us. We pretend. And we go through our lives from childhood up to adulthood doing a whole lot of pretending. And what the Vipassana would be is to wake up to, I am pretending, I'm making this stuff up. But then the second point of the Vipassana was to be, and I was attached to that. I liked my dream, I liked my delusion, and now I find out that it's not true. Can we then make that change from, oh, poor me, I was only deluded, into, wow, I'm glad that I woke up. I'm glad that I can see it. I'm glad that I'm no longer in that delusion. So this is the quality. Remember, Anna, when Goenka would all continuously say, not always, but continuously say, when the mind wanders away from the breath, never mind, start again. Okay? So when you find out that you're in a deluded make-believe state, when you're pretending, when you're in a daydream, and then you come out of it, that's the same thing as when the mind wanders away from the breath. You were actually off into that dream and you woke up. So when we're practicing Anapanasati or practicing Goenka method, and the mind wanders away from the breath, when we wake up to that, Often we don't like it. Oh, I don't like that the mind wandered away from the breath. Or I don't like it that I figured out that I was delusional. I don't like it when I catch myself in a lie. And so we want to hide from that. We want to go back in the delusion rather than seeing reality as it is joyfully, to be joyful about the fact that we caught ourselves messing up, screwing up, deluded, magical thinking, and then become disappointed when we recognize that we were that way. So the right thing to do then is to wake up a little bit more and say, hot dog, I'm really glad to see that I was deluded. I'm really happy to see that, because now I can change my mind into being happy with something real rather than being sort of happy about a delusion that I was in. This is a very subtle point. So when we were deluded, we were deluded. When we recognize that we weren't deluded, that's exactly the same as when we recognize that the mind has wandered away from the breath. We don't like it. Can we see that? And see, that's the part of the vipassana, not that the mind wandered away, but that I don't like when I recognize the mind has wandered away. I don't like it. Or when I was deluded, when I was daydreaming and I come out of the daydream, I don't like coming out of my daydream. My daydream was a marvelous daydream. But in fact, when people have night dreams, one of the things that we want to do when we wake up to the fact that we were in a dream or dreaming it, we want to continue that dream. We want to finish it off. It's almost like we're in the middle of a novel. We can't put it down. We want to continue the fantasy. We like it. And the better thing to do is to put that novel down, the one that you're writing right now. Just put it down and be happy that you can put it away. Come back to reality, come back to the breath happily. Does anybody have any questions about this?
One
Go
thing
ahead,
about
Dan.
dreams is that I've noticed that my ability to remember my dreams has increased by a lot, really. So I was wondering, is it possible to do anapanasati in your dream too? Have you experimented with this?
Right. And it also, because we can become aware of the dreams, we can easier come out of it. But one of the traps is to get into a dream state, then recognize that we're in a dream state, and then wanting to continue the dream. Rather than willingly, happily say, wow, I was dreaming and now I'm not. Let's wake up. Let's see what's real. To recognize that I'm laying in bed, I am not riding that motor scooter or whatever it was that was in the dream. Does this make sense to you, Amit?
Yes, perfect. It makes perfect sense. Thank you.
So we do get caught up in our dream states. We get caught up in our ideas, and we love our ideas. Oh, we love to make stuff up. We got in the habit of doing that and liking it when we were a child. So when we catch that, now we've got a new goal or a new skill to develop, and that is that, hey, I can change that. I can change that dream that I was in into a happy reality. Wow, I'm glad I could wake up. I could take a deep breath and relax. That oftentimes our dreams have to do with some job or some problem or something dangerous. Most dreams are, in fact, either being chased, you're running away from something, or you're running after something. Both of them have the quality of fear, especially the running away from something, being chased. But when we wake up to that, we can say, wow, I'm actually laying in bed. I'm not chasing anything. I'm not being chased. I'm not looking for anything. Wow, what a relief it is. I don't have to go chasing around. I can be happy and content right the way things are. So this is the Vipassana, is that recognition that it's better to be in reality right here, right now, than it is to pursue whatever delusional, whatever magical state, whatever dream we were having, whatever ideas that we were having. We can come out of that stuff, take a deep breath, and relax. Rick, do you have anything to say?
Nothing but that I'm pretty relaxed right now.
Pretty relaxed. Yeah, Marcus, he looks pretty relaxed. Kat, how are you? You pretty relaxed? All right. David, how about you? Are you relaxed?
Oh, yeah. Always.
All right. How about you, Pedro? Are you relaxed right now? Are you still worried about your wallet?
No, I am relaxed.
Good one. How about you, Patrick? Are you relaxed?
Yes, definitely.
Good. Excellent. Does anybody have any final comments or anything to say about this?
Yeah, I want to make a point.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
This practice you're talking about, waking up, meditation, it has nothing to do with sitting, squatting on the floor.
Right. Exactly. That in fact, we do need to practice coming out of our misery. We need to practice by being in seclusion. We could probably sit down because it's more convenient to sit down than it is to stand up. But you can do this, unlike what Goenka says, they want you in the meditation hall. But you can do this laying down. You can do this in any posture that you're in. And just remember that everything is okay right now. We have to keep talking ourselves into it because we're going to make stuff up. We're going to daydream. We're going to perceive this is wrong when in fact there's no problem with it and all of that. And it doesn't have to do with formal meditation, but it does require practice. It does require that we go to a forest or to a foot of a tree or an empty hut or a pile of straw and sit down and actually look at what's going on with us. Look at our thoughts. Look at what's happening. Look at the body. Look at the anxiety. Look at the feelings. Look at what's happening and make a change. And that does not require formal meditation. It does not require a meditation hall. It does not require having the men on one side and the women on the other. It does not have to do with what kind of cushions or mats that you're sitting on. It does not require incense and candles and a Buddha rupa. It doesn't require a monk sitting on a dais. It doesn't require any of that kind of stuff. Then in fact, when you're sitting in a meditation hall in a retreat with a whole bunch of other people, you're not in seclusion. People are coughing and...
That's why we have cells.
Say that again, Anna.
That's why we have cells.
Yes, exactly. The very, very beginner, they only want them in the meditation hall so they can lecture them all at once.
Yes.
Sort of like that's what we would do here, that everybody should be sitting up straight and pretending to meditate while I'm talking. Oh, no. I see all you guys really laid back. and I have no interest in confuse you and criticize you about that. It's really okay that you just relax. But that's what this is really all about. And sitting still and sitting straight and sitting straight up is often not relaxing at all. It has body pain. We get used to sitting in certain postures, and so when we go into that formal meditation system, it's actually not conducive to the actual practice of Anapanasati. It brings its own set of problems that we can get away from and go, so find that cell, exactly, so we can say, Go to the forest, go to the foot of a tree, go to an empty hut, or go into an empty meditation cell and get away from everything and just enjoy being there, being alone, recognizing no dangers, nobody's looking at you, nobody's judging you, and you could just relax.
Yeah.
So, guys, why don't we finish up now? Does anybody have any last things to say? Everybody's okay. Great. Relaxed. Lullaby and good night. Enjoy your life. All right, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thanks. I've really enjoyed this. Yeah.
That's great. Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
All right.
everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.